Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Annabeth, Clarrisee and Aphrodite? Part 2. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, so without wasting any time let's get into the video. Naruto awoke, but not in the infirmary of Camp Half-Blood nor his bed in the Hermes cabin like he expected. Nope, Naruto awoke to a sunny sky, his back against soft blades of green grass, the sound of a waterfall in his ear. Naruto sat up and groaned, getting a clearer picture of where he was. Last he remembered his father and grandmother had claimed him, and then he saw an image of some weird white-skinned man as he gained chain-like burn scars on his arms. Looking to his arms, he saw that they were still there. Grasping his arm and running his hand along them, he muttered, "What in the hell?" He was so confused at what was going on and he was not used to this. Standing up, he noted he was surrounded by forests and the waterfall. In the center of it all was a lake that the water from the fall dropped into. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw movement in the water. Curious, he moved closer, kneeling at the edge of the water. Not seeing or sensing anything at first, he saw his own reflection in the water before it began to change. The image of a man on a horse, similar to the white-skinned one he saw before he fell unconscious. Naruto heard him shout, "We must not stop. Go forth. Go forth in the name of Sparta." Then strangely, Naruto began to hear a woman's voice in head. Once a captain in the Spartan army, Kratos had begun his command with only 50 soldiers, but soon his numbers grew to the thousands. Naruto was confused why he was hearing voices in his head, but he was curious as to who the man was, so he continued to watch as the images changed to Kratos killing enemy soldiers without mercy in brutal ways, the voice speaking again. His tactics were brutal, but effective. Drunk with power, he was feared by all. Except one, his wife was the only one to brave his fury. Naruto saw the image change to the woman he assumed was the man's wife and daughter. Kratos' wife demanded of him while holding their daughter close, "How much is enough, Kratos? When will it end?" Kratos had only one answer: when the glory of Sparta is known throughout the world. He did not even seem apologetic about his brutality and seemed to believe he was justified in his actions. Kratos' wife didn't seem to care for the answer, and Naruto could understand, as that seemed like an answer of someone trying to justify their brutal actions. "The glory of Sparta, you did this for yourself." As Kratos' wife looked back at him, blood ran from her eyes. The image changed again, to show an image of Kratos with his army before everything was burning around him. His desire for conquest knew no bounds, but that which he desired would ultimately consume him. The scene in the pool changes again, showing Kratos and his army charging into battle on horseback, which told him that Kratos must have lived after the Peloponnesian War occurred, because the Spartans didn't start using cavalry in any capacity until late into that war. The beautiful voice speaking inside his head once more, the youngest and boldest captain in the Spartan army, Kratos had inspired fierce loyalty in his men. It had always been enough to carry them through any battle, until this day. The barbarians to the east numbered in the thousands and descended on the Spartans without mercy. The voice said, and Naruto saw as the scene shifted to show thousands of barbarians waiting to ambush Kratos and his army. This did not make sense to Naruto, because he could not recall any such gathering of barbarians from history, not to mention, those barbarians looked Germanic, so he was not sure what was happening. What he did know was that Kratos was walking into a trap, as the barbarians outnumbered the Spartan army by nearly 3 to 1. The barbarian leader fired an arrow at a soldier riding beside Kratos and took off his skull. The scene shifted again to show Naruto that while the Spartans, caught off guard and ambushed as they were, managed to take out many barbarians, the barbarians seemed unnaturally strong, taking out 3 Spartans for every 1 barbarian that fell. It seemed unreal, almost like the barbarians were mystically empowered or something. The battle lasted mere hours. The discipline and training of the Spartans did little to stem the tide of the merciless barbarians. Kratos' soldiers are shown battling with everything they have, but it was not enough as the bloodthirsty barbarians slaughtered them. The soldiers faced a massacre, while their young captain faced the end of his brilliant career and his life. The voice said again. Naruto was enraptured with the story. After a few moments of the images stopping and the voice in his head not speaking, he realized that couldn't be the end and wanted to know what happened next. Surely that is not all there is. You are not young ready for the whole story in a single night, young sage. The voice was no longer in his head, but he could hear it as he would hear any normal person when talking to him. Whirling around, he saw a woman in a green dress though a cloak that looked like the surface of the earth itself, shrouded her head from sight, yet Naruto could see hints of beautiful curly black hair and a serene smile. "Why, thank you for the compliments, young demigod. I haven't received such compliments for what feels like many years," she suddenly said, and Naruto remembered that they were probably in his head, so his thoughts were being broadcasted out loud. "You mentioned something about not being ready," Naruto asked, a little embarrassed that thoughts he would normally keep private had been heard by this likely beautiful woman. The story of Kratos is not something that can be told in a single night, young Naruto. But do not worry, as you suspect, what little I have showed you is not the end. It is merely part of the beginning of Kratos' tale. The woman said. But what does this Kratos have to do with me? And I just realized I didn't ask for your name. Naruto said. The woman just smiled and said, why ask a question you already know the answer to? That confirmed it for Naruto, as he could now make out the beautiful face beneath the earthly shroud. A beautiful face with eyes that seemed to be permanently closed. We will speak more when next you sleep. For now, do not reveal anything about Kratos. Do not go looking for knowledge of this man, as you will not find it. You must not reveal even a hint that you know of him. If you do, I fear for your life. The woman said as everything around Naruto faded and he awoke to the real world. Gaia was indeed interested in the young man. A powerful demigod of her grandson Poseidon, related to Demeter and Kratos through his mother. And if what she has seen from his mind is any indication, from his first life to becoming Hokage to being reborn in this one, he will grow to become very powerful. Yet she was not yet sure what she wanted from him at the moment. She had tried to use Kratos long ago to enact revenge on the gods after her defeat in the first Gigantomachy, and that plan had failed miserably. For now, she would simply guide him on the inevitable path that would lead him straight to Kratos. And after that, she would see what to do with him. After all, it had been thousands of years since she had a husband to share her bed with. Her first Uranus had been her first love, but he turned cruel when her womb brought forth the Hecatonchires and the elder Cyclops. Tartarus was so apathetic and self-absorbed that he never left the pit that bore his name. Perhaps, if Naruto proved himself worthy, the third time would be the charm. After all, he was quite handsome and had this aura that just attracted followers to him. It would be little surprise to her that this more aware Naruto would have multiple lovers vying for his attention and a large group of followers. Such were the qualities of a king. Camp. The morning that Naruto awoke, he was greeted to the sight of Annabeth and Clarrisee bickering over something with Selena, trying to keep the peace between the two of them. Naruto groaned as he sat up, rubbing his head, as he felt like he had a headache. The girls ceased their bickering when they heard him rise from back to sit up. Naruto. They all said in concern as they moved to his side of the bed. Morning, Naruto said, allowing them to breathe a sigh of relief as he was alright. Hey, fist cake, Clarrisee asked. Naruto weakly stick his tongue out at her, not having the energy to come up with a comeback, causing her to chuckle. What do you remember before passing out? Well, before the pain started, besides having an awesome fight with War Girl, manhandling a hellhound, my grandmother and father finally getting their act together and claiming me, not much before the pain started. Naruto said as he pulled the bandages off his hands to see the chain-shaped burn scars. They just appeared out of nowhere. Selena mentioned, her soft hands tracing out the scars on his arms. I don't understand how you could have gotten these. Annabeth said, as her brain was stumped, trying to figure out how he could have gotten chain-shaped scars. Neither do I, though they do look cool, Naruto shrugged, not about to say anything about this Kratos character until he knew more. If you are able to stand Naruto, given that you have been claimed now, we must see your new living arrangements. Chiron said. Yes, I suppose we do. Naruto said as he stood up. Lead the way, Chiron. I'm Skip. That morning had Naruto moved to cabin 3. Naruto now had plenty of room for all his stuff. He could sit at his own dinner tables, pick his own activities, go to sleep when he wanted to, and not listen to anybody else. Naruto was isolated from most of the kids at camp, but he didn't really care, he was used to living on his own anyway. Nobody mentioned the hellhound, but he knew they were all talking about it behind his back. The attack had scared everybody and made two things clear. 1. That he was the son of the sea god, grandson of Demeter and had super strength, making him very powerful and not somebody to mess with, and 2. Monsters would stop at nothing to kill him. They could even invade a camp that had always been considered safe. Naruto wasn't really bothered by the whole mood the camp had. Naruto still had a few people, like Katie from Demeter, Charles Beckendorf from Hephaestus, along with some of his siblings, Selena, and a few others. Thank God that Clarrisee and Annabeth still interacted with him regularly. The other campers steered clear from him as much as possible. Cabin 11 was too nervous to have sword class with him after what he'd done to the Ares kids and watching him manhandle the hellhound with brute strength, so he pretty much only trained with Clarrisee anymore in weapons. Annabeth still taught him Greek in the mornings, but seemed distracted. After lessons, she would walk away muttering to herself. Quest Poseidon. Dirty rotten, got to make a plan. And at least that following night, Gaia visited him in his dreams, showing him more about Kratos. Flashback. Naruto was inside his mindscape while his body slept. Once again, Gaia's visage stood next to him while Naruto stared into the reflecting pool, watching more of Kratos' story be told. Right now, they were picking up where they had left off the first time. But to Kratos, victory was worth any price, even his life, Gaia said as the scene showed Kratos about to be smashed to death by the barbarian. As the Barabian raised his hammer, Kratos called out for aid. Ares. Destroy my enemies, and my life is yours. A scene showed the sky splitting apart and a massive shadow was cast over the battlefield and time seemed to slow to a still. Or perhaps it was all in Kratos' head. Regardless, Gaia continued to narrate. The sky split apart and the god of war stepped through, descending from Olympus. Ares saw the makings of a god of earth. Ares would save this mortal and make him into the perfect warrior. His servant on earth. Only a simple pledge of loyalty required of him. Naruto was able to glimpse Ares as he was back then. Ares was powerfully built with charcoal gray skin, his hair and beard were long and seemingly made of fire, his armor was painted blood red and depicted growling warhounds on it, and he gave off an aura that incited rage and hatred. Kratos moved from bowing his head and rose to his knees. My life is yours, Ares. From this day, I shall carry forth your will. Gaia continued to narrate the story for Naruto. And his fate was sealed, as promised. Ares rescued his new disciple, bringing forth the power of a god, destroying those who would slaughter Kratos and his men. The scene in the pool showed the god using his powers to kill the Germanic soldiers in brutal and supernatural ways. Some erupted into flames, some had their heads explode and others were lifted into the air and snapped in half like twigs. Ares then summoned several harpies to carry the blades of chaos. As for Kratos, no mere sword and shield would befit the newest servant of the god of war. The blades of chaos, forged in the foulest depths of Hades. Kratos extended his arms out, accepting his patron's gift. Once attached, the chains remained so, chained and seared to the flesh, a part of the bargain, a permanent reminder of Kratos' pledge. The chains were indeed so hot that they seared his flesh, and Kratos did shout in pain. In return, ultimate power. Gaia said. The scene showed reality resume, and Kratos used the blades to decapitate the barbarian that would have killed him. His head flew off his body, shock and confusion at what had happened, while Kratos could be seen with a sadistic look in his eyes. The rage of Ares exploded from within, but soon, he would learn the true cost of such power, a cost too high, even for Kratos to pay. Naruto rubbed the scars on his arms, wondering what it meant for him, now that he had these chain scars, and how he was related to Kratos. Why do you show me this man's life, Lady Gaia? Naruto asked bluntly, having figured out who she was from their first meeting. What do you really want with me? It concerned him, this interest the supposed ultimate enemy of Olympus had for him. He didn't know what she wanted, and that made him suspicious. I am interested in your development, young man. I am aware of everything that happens on my surface, so when I discovered your ability to utilize nature to your advantage, you gained my interest. Even more so with Kratos appearing before you. I want to see how you turn out. Gaia admitted to him. And after that? He asked, turning to face her. You'll have to wait and find out. Gaia teased as he began to wake from his dream. There was little he could do to stop her, he didn't have the ability to block her out of his head. Naruto would simply have to prepare for the worst, in the likely case that what she wanted was nefarious in nature. Flashback end. A week would go by before Naruto had another dream. This one did not involve Gaia or Kratos. He was on a beach. 100 yards down the water, two men were fighting. They looked like wrestlers, muscular, with beards and long hair as they stood, taller than humans. Both wore flowing Greek tunics, one trimmed in blue, the other green. They grappled with each other, wrestled, kicked and headbutted, and every time they connected, lightning flashed, the sky grew darker, and the wind rose. Naruto stood there, knowing it was pointless to intervene. He knew it was a dream, but certain dreams had meaning. Naruto recognized his father, Poseidon, and realized that the other must be Zeus. Over the roar of the storm, he could hear Zeus yelling, "Give it back. Give it back." Like a whiny child wanting his sweets. The waves got bigger, crashing into the beach, spraying him with salt water. The ground shook. Laughter came from somewhere under the earth, and a voice that was deep and evil. "Come down, little hero," the voice crooned. "Come down." The sand split beneath his feet, opening up a pit in the center of the earth. Naruto woke, looking out the window, seeing the dark clouds outside, showing it was night. Thunder rolled across the hills as the storm was coming. There was a knock on the door of the cabin. Naruto went to answer and saw that it was Grover. "What?" he asked. "Mr. D wants to see you," he said, looking gloomy. "Why?" "He wants to kill, he just wants to talk to you." Growling, Naruto got out of bed and got dressed, gathering his weapons in case it would come down to a fight. Over the Long Island Sound, the sky looked like ink soup coming to a boil. A hazy curtain of rain was coming in the boys' direction. The storm was massive. Definitely not something that could occur naturally. At the volleyball court, the kids from Apollo's cabin were playing a morning game against the Satyrs. Dionysus's twins were walking around the strawberry fields, making plants grow. Everybody was going about their usual routine, but they looked tense. They kept their eyes on the storm. The two walked up to the front porch of the big house. Dionysus sat at the pinnacle table in his tiger-striped Hawaiian shirt with his Diet Coke, just as he had the first day. Chiron sat across the table in his fake wheelchair. They were playing against invisible opponents, 2 sets of cards hovering in the air. Well, Mr. D said without looking up. Our little celebrity. Naruto scowled at Dionysus. He didn't like this fat man-child of a drunk one bit. Come closer, Mr. D said. And don't expect me to kowtow to you, mortal, just because old Barnacle Beard is your father. A net of lightning flashed across the clouds. Thunder shook the windows of the house. Blah, 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 Dionysus said. Chiron feigned interest in his pinochle cards. Grover cowered by the railing, his hooves clopping back and forth. If I had my way, Dionysus said, I would cause your molecules to erupt in flames. We'd sweep up the ashes and be done with a lot of trouble. But Chiron seems to feel this would be against my mission at this cursed camp. To keep you little brat safe from harm. Chiron opened his mouth to say something, but Naruto beat him to it when he said, I have done nothing wrong. Unless you are so pig-headed as to believe I have committed some crime just for being born to Poseidon. But if that's the case, why don't I go and gut those 2 brats of yours? After all, they deserve it for being born of a god, don't they? Grover went wider than a sheet as Dionysus glared at him. Naruto's killing intent suddenly erupted full force and slammed against Dionysus's. As this was going on, even more lightning flashed across the sky. After a moment, Dionysus rose, his killing intent fading, and the invisible player's cards dropped to the table. I'm off to the emergency meeting. If the boy is still here when I get back, I'll turn him into an Atlantic botanist. He warned. Dionysus picked up a playing card, twisted it, and it became a plastic rectangle. Like a credit card. He snapped his fingers. The air seemed to fold and bend around him. He became a hologram, then a wind, and then he was gone, leaving the faint smell of fresh pressed grapes lingering behind. Naruto scoffed out loud, relaxing his tense muscles, as the potential threat to his life had disappeared. Such a warm greeting from our resident god. Such a role model, he muttered sarcastically. Chiron smiled at Naruto, but he looked tired and strained. Sit, Naruto, please. And Grover. How do I know that I am not walking to my own chopping block? Naruto said distrustfully. Chiron sighed, somewhat understanding his reasons. Naruto, they are not intending to kill you. Yeah, because Dionysus gave such a good impression, Naruto said sarcastically. I understand your distrust, but this is a matter of great importance. Chiron laid his cards on the table, Naruto sitting down, hesitantly. Tell me, Chiron said. What did you make of the Hellhound? It's nothing I haven't killed before, Naruto said with his arms crossed. What concerns me more is how it actually got into those woods in the first place. Chiron gave a sad smile at that. Yes, we are still trying to figure out who summoned it. But I'm afraid you'll meet worse, young man. Far worse, before you're done. Done with what? Naruto asked, hesitant. Your quest, of course. Will you accept it? Chiron asked Naruto. You haven't told me what it is yet. Naruto pointed out. Chiron grumbled. Well, that's the difficult part, isn't it? The details. Thunder rumbled across the valley. The storm clouds had now reached the end of the beach. As far as they can see, the sky and the sea were melding together. Poseidon and Zeus, Naruto said, getting it out there so there would be no beating around the bush. They're fighting because Zeus's little nuclear glow stick was stolen. Zeus blamed my father, and Poseidon is angry at Zeus for this light. Did I miss anything? Chiron and Grover exchanged looks. Chiron sat forward in his wheelchair. How did you know that? Naruto raised an eyebrow. You mean besides the fact that Alecto demanded to know where the lightning bolt was and I tortured it out of her? I knew it, Grover said. He, like Chiron, had entered the room where Alecto and Naruto had been back on that field trip, and the scene of entering the room to find Naruto standing over a dead Alecto was suspicious, to say the least. Hush, Satyr, Chiron ordered. But it's his quest. Grover's exclaimed. It must be. Only the Oracle can determine. Chiron stroked his beard. Zeus's master bolt, Chiron said, getting worked up now. The symbol of his power, from which all other lightning bolts are patterned. The first weapon made by the Cyclops for the war against the Titans, the bolt that sheared the top of Mount Etna and hurled Kronos from his throne, the master bolt, which packs enough power to make mortal hydrogen bombs look like firecrackers. And it's been stolen and someone's blaming me. That's just awesome, Naruto said sarcastically. At least Chiron held up a hand. That's what Zeus thinks. During the winter solstice, Zeus and Poseidon had an argument. It was the usual nonsense. Mother Ray always liked you best, air disasters are more spectacular than sea disasters, etc. Afterward, Zeus realized that his master bolt was missing, taken from the throne room right under his nose. He immediately blamed Poseidon. Now a god cannot usurp another god's symbol of power directly, that is most forbidden by the most ancient of divine laws. But Zeus believes your father convinced a human hero or two to have taken it. Zeus has good reason to be suspicious. Here Naruto rolled his eyes, mentally disagreeing with him. The forges of the Cyclops are under the ocean, which gives Poseidon some influence over the makers of the lightning bolt and is now secretly having the Cyclops build an arsenal of illegal copies, which might be used to topple Zeus from his throne. The only thing he wasn't sure about was which hero or heroes Poseidon used to steal the bolt. Now Poseidon has openly claimed you as his son. You were in New York over the winter holidays. You could have easily snuck into Olympus. Zeus believes he has found his thief. That beeping paranoid imbecile. Of course I was in New York, that's where I live, just like the other 8 million people that inhabit the city. I've never even been to Olympus before. Any idiot could see that. Naruto grumbled as he pinched the bridge of his nose. Tyron and Grover glanced nervously at the sky. The clouds didn't seem to be parting around them, as Grover had promised. They were rolling straight over the valley, sealing the area like a coffin lid. Naruto Grover said. We don't use those words to describe the Lord of the Sky. Nonetheless, Naruto said. It is impossible that I am the thief. Like I said, I didn't know where Olympus was until Annabeth told me, nor do I know how to gain access to Olympus. And if you want to use that logic, then technically every demigod that was actually in Olympus during the holiday could be held accountable. Tyron then shook his head. Well, I do agree with you on your behalf, Zeus is paranoid. Then again, Poseidon has tried to unseat Zeus before. I believe it was question 38 on your final exam here. He looked at Naruto knowingly. I'm pretty sure that was a plan concocted by Hera. My father only joined along because he was tired of being treated like crap by his little brother. Naruto pointed out. Correct, Chiron said. And Zeus has never trusted Poseidon since. Of course, Poseidon denies stealing the bolt. He took great offense at the accusation. The two have been arguing back and forth for a while. And now you have come along the proverbial last straw. Naruto, Grover cut in. If you were Zeus and you thought your brother was plotting to overthrow you, then your brother suddenly admitted he had broken the sacred oath he took after World War II, that he's fathered 2 new mortal heroes who might be used as weapons against you. Wouldn't that put a twist in your toga? Naruto snorted. Kinda hypocritical of him to say, since he had a kid several years before Poseidon did. He said. Grover looked sheepish at that. Chiron sighed. Most thinking observers would agree that thievery is not Poseidon's style. But the sea god is too proud to try to convince Zeus that. Zeus has demanded that Poseidon return the bolt by the summer solstice. Poseidon wants an apology for being called a thief on the same date, June 21st, several months from now. I hope that diplomacy might prevail, that Hera or Demeter or Hestia would make the 2 brothers see sense. But your arrival has inflamed Zeus's temper. Now neither god will back down. Unless someone intervenes, there will be war. And do you know what a full-fledged war looks like? Disastrous, chaotic and destructive. That is how wars are. Naruto said. What a war between Olympians would be like, I can only guess. Imagine the world in chaos. Nature at war with itself. Olympians forced to choose sides between Zeus and Poseidon. Carnage. Millions dead. Western civilization turned into a battleground so big it makes the Trojan War look like a water balloon fight. So, bad then, Naruto repeated. And you, Naruto, would be the first to feel Zeus's wrath. It started to rain. Volleyball players stopped their game and stared in stunned silence at the sky. So Zeus is punishing the whole camp because he can't find his electric toothpick, Naruto said. And I take it you think I need to be the one to get it back. What better peace offering, Chiron said, than to have the son of Poseidon return Zeus's property. If Poseidon doesn't have it, where is the thing? Asked Naruto. I believe I know. Chiron's expression turned grim. Part of a prophecy I had years ago. Well, some of the lines make sense to me. But before I can say more, you must officially take the quest. You must seek the oracle. Why can't you tell me where you think the bolt is beforehand? Naruto asked. Because if I did, I fear you would be too afraid to accept the challenge. Naruto crossed his arms. I'm no coward. If I have to get Zeus's little dildo back so war between the gods doesn't break out, I'll do it. Because if I don't, the world basically ends. You agree then? Chiron asked. Yes, he agreed. Then it's time to consult the oracle, Chiron said. Go upstairs to the attic. When you come down, assuming you're still sane, we will talk more. Upstairs. Naruto went up 4 floors that ended under a green trapdoor. Naruto pulled the cord and it swung open to reveal a ladder. The warm air above smelled like mildew and rotten wood and something else, something reptilian. The attic was filled with Greek hero junk. Armor stands covered in cobwebs, once bright shields pitted with rust, old leather steamer trunks plastered with stickers saying Ithaca, Circe's Isle, and Land of the Amazons. One long table was stacked with glass jars filled with pickled things, severed hairy claws, huge yellow eyes, various other parts of monsters. The dusty mounted trophy on the wall looked like a giant snake head, but with horns and teeth. The plaque read, Hydra Head Number 1, Wood Stick, NY, 1969. By the window, sitting on a wooden tripod stool, was the most gruesome memento of all. A mummy. There was a tie-dyed sundress on it, with lots of beaded necklaces the hippie kind and a headband over long black hair. She looked shriveled and dried up. Her eyes were glassy white, like marble slits. Then, a green mist poured out of the mummy's mouth, coiling over the floor in thick tendrils. The mist hissed like thousands of snakes. The voice hissed in both their heads. I am the spirit of Delphi, speaker of the prophecies of Phobos Apollo, slayer of the mighty Python. Approach, seeker, and ask. Naruto took a deep breath and asked, what am I meant to do? The mist swirled more thickly, collecting right in front of him. It took the shape of 5 people that Naruto cared about dearly. The mist took the shape of Minato, Kurama, Kushina, Demeter, and his former wife Hinata. Seeing his mother again made him want to break down and cry. Even though he grieved for her death, seeing her again brought back memories of his time together with her. It made his heart break even more. He probably would have broken down if not for the fact that he knew that the woman before him wasn't real. Minato turned towards him and spoke in the raspy voice of the oracle. You shall go west and face the god who has turned. Kurama in a raspy voice said, you shall find what is stolen and see it safely returned. Demeter said in the same voice, you shall expose the traitor masquerading as a friend. Hinata spoke next, you will save what matters most in the end. Kushina gave the final line, and you shall discover the truth of your relation to the dead. The figures began to dissolve, and the tail of the mist retreated into the mummy's mouth. Then she returned back into her original position, leaving Naruto alone. His audience with the oracle was over. Back with Chiron. Well? Chiron asked them with a raised eyebrow. Naruto sat in his chair. She said that I would retrieve what was stolen. What did the oracle say exactly? Chiron pressed. This is important. She said I would go west and face the god who has turned. That I would retrieve what was stolen and see it safely returned. I knew it, Grover said. Chiron didn't look satisfied. Anything else? He asked sternly. She also mentioned something about exposing a traitor masquerading as a friend and saving what matters most in the end. Still not sure what that means. Naruto said. Chiron nodded but still looked troubled. Naruto was unsure why. Chiron then spoke, very well. But know this. The oracle's words often have double meanings. Don't dwell on them too much. The truth is not always clear until events come to pass. Fine, Naruto said. So, who's the god in the west? Think, Naruto, Chiron said. If Zeus and Poseidon weaken each other, who stands to gain? Naruto, after thinking for a minute, replied, Hades. But that's way too obvious. As well as stereotypical to blame him. But think about it, Naruto, Chiron said. He is someone who harbors a grudge, who has been unhappy with his lot since the world was divided, whose kingdom would grow powerful with the death of millions. Someone who hates his brothers for forcing him into an oath to have no more children, an oath both have broken. The Lord of the Dead is the only possibility. I still don't really buy it. Naruto shrugged. Sure, Hades may have been sort of a beep, but that didn't automatically make him the culprit. Actually, why would Hades want to cause war if millions would die, swelling his kingdom up even more? The Fury came after you, Naruto, Chiron said. She watched the young man until she was sure of his identity, then tried to kill him. Furies obey only one lord. Hades. Yes, but Hades hates all heroes, Grover protested. Especially if he found out that Naruto was the son of Poseidon. The hellhound appeared into the forest, Chiron continued on. Those can only be summoned from the fields of punishment, and it had to be summoned by someone from this camp. Hades must have a spy here. He must suspect Poseidon will try to use Naruto to clear his name. Hades would very much like to kill him before he could take on the quest. Naruto narrowed his eyes, still don't buy it. That dream with the hole in the earth. I don't know enough to say Hades is the culprit. Not yet. But a quest to Grover swallowed. I mean, couldn't the Master Bolt have been in some place like Maine? Maine's very nice this time of year. Hades sent a minion to steal the bolt, Chiron insisted, seeming to believe that he had hit the nail on the head. He hid it in the underworld, knowing full well that Zeus would blame Poseidon. I don't pretend to understand the Lord of the Dead's motives perfectly or why he chose this time to start a war, but one thing is certain. Naruto must go into the underworld, find the Master Bolt, and reveal the truth. Naruto looked towards Chiron. You've known I was his kid all along, haven't you? I had my suspicions. As I said, I have spoken to the oracle too. Naruto just gave him a look but decided to drop the matter for now. So let me get this straight, Naruto said slowly. I'm supposed to go to the underworld to confront the Lord of the Dead. Find the most powerful weapon in the universe. And get it back to Olympus before the summer solstice, which is a few months away from now. That's about right, Chiron nodded. Naruto looked at Grover. You don't have to go, Naruto told Grover. Hell, I wasn't even gonna ask that of you. You have your license now, you can search for Pan if you want. It hadn't taken much to convince the council to give Grover his promotion. A few threats about sending them to Tartarus was enough to convince the council of fat satyrs that it was in their best interest to stay on Naruto's good side. And staying on his good side for them meant giving Grover the promotion he by this point deserved. He turned to Chiron. So where do we go? The oracle just said go west. The entrance to the underworld is always in the west. It moves from age to age, just like Olympus. Right now, of course, it's in America. Chiron said. I figured that. I meant where. Chiron looked surprised that he had not guessed it. I thought that would be obvious enough. The entrance to the underworld is in Los Angeles. Oh, Naruto said sarcastically. Because that's super obvious. If the location of Olympus wasn't obvious, then the entrance to the underworld wouldn't be either. Chiron at least had the decency to look sheepish. Well, probably can't travel in the air. Zeus would probably just be a beep and blast me out of the sky if I tried. He said. Overhead, lightning crackled. Thunder boomed. So we travel overland. That's right, Chiron said. 2 more companions may accompany you, boy. One has volunteered if you will accept her help. The air shimmered around Chiron. Annabeth became visible, stuffing her Yankees cap in her back pocket. I've been waiting a long time for a quest, seaweed brain, she said to Naruto. Athena is no fan of Poseidon, but if you're going to save the world, I'm the best person to have at your side. A team of 3, Naruto said. That'll work. Now, I know who I want as the 3rd member. I know the 2 of you have problems with each other, Annabeth. Can I trust you 2 to be civil while we travel together? Annabeth was not necessarily pleased that Naruto wanted to bring Clarrisee, her rival, along for the ride. But logically she understood why. Clarrisee was the 2nd best fighter at camp, and having a tracker didn't make sense on this quest, since they knew where they were going and what they needed to do. Her reasons for not wanting Clarrisee along were for personal reasons. Excellent, Chiron said. This afternoon, we can take you as far as the bus terminal in Manhattan. After that, you are on your own. Lightning flashed. Rain poured down on the meadows that wasn't supposed to have violent weather. No time to waste, Chiron said. I think you should all get packing. That's right, Chiron said. 2 more companions may accompany you, boy. One has volunteered if you will accept her help. The air shimmered around Chiron. Annabeth became visible, stuffing her Yankees cap in her back pocket. I've been waiting a long time for a quest, seaweed brain, she said to Naruto. Athena is no fan of Poseidon, but if you're going to save the world, I'm the best person to have at your side. A team of 3, Naruto said. That'll work. Now, I know who I want as the 3rd member. I know the 2 of you have problems with each other, Annabeth. Can I trust you 2 to be civil while we travel together? Annabeth was not necessarily pleased that Naruto wanted to bring Clarrisee, her rival, along for the ride. But logically she understood why. Clarrisee was the 2nd best fighter at camp, and having a tracker didn't make sense on this quest, since they knew where they were going and what they needed to do. Her reasons for not wanting Clarrisee along were for personal reasons. Excellent, Chiron said. This afternoon, we can take you as far as the bus terminal in Manhattan. After that, you are on your own. Lightning flashed. Rain poured down on the meadows that wasn't supposed to have violent weather. No time to waste, Chiron said. I think you should all get packing. Naruto got up that next morning, prepared for his quest. His outfit had changed somewhat for the quest. Right now, he was wearing a black t-shirt underneath a dark brown double-breasted leather trench coat with a black hood. He wore dark blue jeans with a brown belt and brown military combat boots, as well as black fingerless gloves. He met the other 2 companions coming with him on the quest. Annabeth was bringing her magic Yankees cap, which she told him had been a 12th birthday present from her mother. She carried a book on famous classical architecture, written in ancient Greek, to read when she got bored, and a long bronze knife, hidden in her shirt sleeve. Clarrisee was there, decked out in a black leather jacket with a gray shirt, blue jeans, and brown thigh boots. Naruto briefly wondered where her weapons were, but she probably had a way to store them in a pocket dimension like he did. Chiron was waiting for them in his wheelchair. Next to him stood the surfer guy both Naruto saw while recovering in the sick room, the one with the many eyes. According to Annabeth, he was the camp's head of security. He supposedly had eyes all over his body so he could never be surprised. Today, though, he was wearing a chauffeur's uniform, so he could only see on his hands, face and neck. This is Argus, Chiron told the kids. He will drive you into the city and, well, keep an eye on things. Chiron, piece of advice, leave the jokes to us youngsters. You're shit at jokes. Naruto deadpanned after hearing that. The centaur looked sheepish at that. The group heard footsteps behind them. Blue came running up the hill, carrying a pair of basketball shoes. Hey. He panted. Glad I caught you. Just wanted to say good luck. I thought maybe you could use these. He handed Naruto the sneakers, which looked pretty normal to him. Luke said, Maya. White bird's wings sprouted out of the heels. The shoes flapped around on the ground until the wings folded up and disappeared. Interesting. Naruto said. Luke smiled. Those served me well when I was on my quest. A gift from Dad. Of course, I don't use them much these days. His expression turned sad. Naruto said, thanks. He wasn't gonna be using them anyway because Zeus was pissy about who entered his domain. Also, something about Luke made Naruto not trust him, so he decided he would not be wearing them anyway. Listen, guys, Luke looked uncomfortable. A lot of hopes are riding on you. So just kill some monsters for me, okay? Him and Naruto shake hands, Luke nods to Clarrisee and then gave Annabeth a hug. Naruto figured that they must be close friends, so he wasn't concerned with it. A white SUV waited on the shoulder of the road. Argus followed, jingling his car keys. Argus drove them out of the countryside and into western Long Island. Hey, Argus, Naruto said to the many-eyed servant of Hera, getting his attention as some of his eyes looked at Naruto. Before you drop us off at wherever you're dropping us off at, I need you to go here first. Naruto pulled out a note and showed him the address. Argus nodded and punched in the address in his GPS before taking a small stop on the way. Where are we going? Annabeth asked, wondering what the detour was about. My house in Queens. I need to get a couple things. Naruto said, getting looks of surprise from the two girls. Argus drove until they pulled up next to a small mansion in Queens. The perimeter of the house was surrounded by a brick wall. The house had a lot of grass around the mansion which was in the center of the property. The driveway was also in the middle and blocked by a gate. Naruto got out of the van and looked at Argus. You're still gonna be here when I get back, right? Argus nodded and Naruto walked up to the gate. Clarrisee moved to get out as well, not wanting to sit all there for who knows how long. Annabeth wasn't about to be left behind so she got out as well. You two could have stayed with him. I won't be more than 10 minutes. Naruto said as he opened the gate. Well, it was either sit in the van with a guy with 100 eyes or go with you. And I'd rather spend that time with you than 100 eyes back there, Clarrisee said. All of a sudden though, both Daughters of War hit some invisible force preventing them from entering his property. They tried to push through it but they couldn't get through. You two can come in. Naruto voiced with authority and suddenly the barrier disappeared and they were able to cross the threshold of the gate. Sorry about that. It's a protective barrier. No supernatural being or anything with ill intentions can cross the threshold of my property without my express permission. It also can't be tampered with because it's powered from inside the barrier, so my place is basically theft-proof. Naruto said. Why do you have a theft-proof house? Annabeth asked. You'll see in a minute. Naruto said as he opened up the doors. Clarrisee and Anna were amazed at how rich the place felt. He had to be a millionaire, at least. Clarrisee whistled and said, dang, fish cake, you've been holding out on us. If you think that's impressive, wait until you see the armory. Naruto said with a smirk. Naruto opened the doors to a basement and both girls were amazed at the amount of weapons he had. Swords, pistols, rifles, shotguns, machine guns, crossbows, maces, axes, and various other weapons lined the one side of the hall. Whatever weapon Clarrisee could think of, he had it. The other side of the room was a little more grotesque. Teeth, eyeballs, a lion's pelt, these were just some of the items that lined the east wall. Annabeth looked at them hard for a moment before her eyes widened. Are those spoils of war? She asked, referring to the items that monsters drop when they are killed. You bet they are, Naruto said as he pointed some out. These are Cyclops' eyes. Those are Laestrygonian teeth. And the lion pelt, is that the Nemean lions? Annabeth asked. It is. Killed that beeper when I was 12. Naruto admitted to everyone else's surprise. How? It's one of the hardest monsters to kill. Annabeth asked. Only if you don't have the right equipment. Just had to target his fleshy spots. The Nemean lion's skin doesn't protect its eyes and the inside of its mouth. Naruto said. And anyway, aside from the pelt, most of this is just for show. The good stuff is back here. Naruto said as he opened a panel and one of the walls parted away to reveal another room filled with more weapons. This is where I keep all my supernatural weapons. Naruto said, pulling a watch off a display. It was a military watch with a black leather strap, so the numbers were all in Roman numerals. He grabbed two pistols off a display. One was silver and the other was painted black, and both resembled desert eagles and holstered them on his waist before they turned invisible. Naruto turned back to the ladies and asked, either of you good with a gun? Not to his surprise, Annabeth shook her head while Clarrisee smirked as if that were a dumb question. Naruto handed Clarrisee a Smith & Wesson Model 500 double-action revolver and about 60 rounds of ammunition. A gun before the first date. You sure know how to treat a daughter of Ares. Clarrisee teased. The bullet casings are half celestial bronze, half lead, so try not to waste them. They are a real pain to make. Naruto said, implying that the bullets were good for supernatural beings or mortals. Naruto handed Annabeth a watch he pulled off the display. I'm guessing this is a weapon of some kind. Annabeth asked him. Flick your wrist and imagine there is a shield on your arm. Naruto instructed and Annabeth did so, a round circular shield with ornate designs appearing attached to her arm. Also, I know you told me you're best with a knife, but having a weapon with longer reach never hurts. Naruto said as he pulled a sword of its dais and gave it to her. The sword also could shapeshift to make it more easier to carry, so Annabeth willed it to become a bracelet. Now, this is what I came for. Naruto said as he pulled an ornate-looking two-handed war axe off its display. War axe, huh? Clarrisee commented. It holds sentimental value. And though it looks pretty ornate, it is a powerful weapon. Naruto said as he clasped it onto his back and then it turned invisible. We should have everything now. They walked back out to the trophy room and Naruto looked at the Nemean lion skin. Pondering for a moment, he grabbed it off the display and threw it to Clarrisee. When she caught it, the skin shifting into a lady's brown leather motorcycle jacket. You sure about giving me this? Clarrisee asked. Not that she didn't appreciate it, as the Nemean lion skin made for an impenetrable suit of armor, but she figured he'd want to wear it. What do you think I'm currently wearing? Naruto asked, and both girls realized he was already wearing the Nemean lion's cloak. I've killed that overgrown beat cat twice in 5 years. Plus, I gave Annabeth some protection, so I figured I should give you some too, even if you don't need it. Hang on, isn't there only one Nemean lion's cloak? Annabeth asked. I thought that too at first, Naruto said. I was surprised when I killed it for the second time last year that it dropped the cloak again. I just settled on the fact that it's little more than magically enchanted skin and it can exist in multiple places. Annabeth was surprised that the cloak of the Nemean lion could exist in 2 places. Clarrisee couldn't argue with that and switched out her current jacket for the Nemean lion one, while Naruto grabbed a map of some kind and pocketed it away for later. With that done, the 3 demigods walked out of his house and back to the van where Argus was waiting for them. 30 minutes later, they got to their destination, which was a bus stop, and said bus would take them towards the southern end of New York City, and they could make their way to California from there. Finally, after another 30 minutes, the bus arrived and they boarded it, though Naruto stiffened slightly as his danger senses went off. What is it? Annabeth asked, after seeing that he stilled for a bit. There's something supernatural nearby. Keep your guards up, Naruto warned, as he couldn't tell what it was, only it was supernatural, and that usually meant it was dangerous. Thankfully, they found seats at the back of the bus. Though Naruto soon became aware of what he sensed earlier when 3 old ladies got on the bus. They all wore a crumpled velvet dress, lace gloves, and carried big paisley purses. They also wore shapeless knit hats that were colored orange, purple, and green respectively. One of them looked up, showing black eyes, and Naruto cursed as he realized who they were. Leaping Furies, all 3 of them. He muttered, drawing looks from the girls. I thought you said you killed one of them. Clarrisee asked. I did, Hades must have helped Electo come back. Retorted Naruto. Naruto, you shouldn't use their names. Names have power. Annabeth whispered, as using their true name would alert them to his presence. It doesn't matter how I refer to them. They already know we are here, Annabeth. That was the entire reason they got on the bus. Naruto said back. The bus traveled for a while, getting closer to the destination that they wanted when the Furies got up and spoke in flat voices, like they had rehearsed what they would say. I have to use the restroom. So do I. So do I. Gee, like that isn't super obvious, Naruto deadpanned. Naruto, they're here for you. Take my hat. Annabeth said, passing her invisibility hat to Naruto. No point, I'm not abandoning you both. Naruto said as he got up, whipping out Riptide. What are you doing? Annabeth asked. I'm picking a fight. Naruto said as he turned to the Furies. Annabeth sighed while hoping he would be okay, and Clarrisee eyed him with curiosity. Once they saw him get up, they instantly zeroed in on Naruto and let out a hideous wail and began transforming. Their faces were still the same, but their bodies had shriveled into leathery brown hag bodies with bats' wings and hands and feet like gargoyle claws. Their handbags had also turned into fiery whips. Where is it, boy? One of the Furies hissed, though the other people didn't notice anything as Naruto controlled the mist to make them forget any of them were on the bus and make them all invisible. I don't have Zeus's electric dildo. Now shut the beep up and get lost before I send your asses back to Tartarus. Naruto warned them, causing them to shriek angrily. Give us the bolt or suffer eternal torment. The Furies demanded. My goodness, you 3 are blind, deaf and stupid. I wonder why Hades even bothers with you 3. You're all a joke. Naruto mocked, angering them even further. Clarrisee had to stop herself from outright laughing at his audacity. The one in front, Tisiphone, tried to claw his eyes out, though he dodged the strike easily and decapitated her in one fluid motion, her body exploding in gold dust. Madara sent her whip in his direction, though Naruto caught it in his hand and grabbed it, smirking at her. Is this supposed to hurt? It doesn't even tickle. Naruto taunted with an evil smirk. He overpowered her and pulled her off her feet and toward him, punching a hole clean through her chest and killing her as well, while her whip was left behind as a spoil of war. Alecto backed up in fear but didn't get very far as Naruto grabbed her by the throat. You dumb whore. Did you not learn your lesson last time when I killed you? You come back again, and next time, I'll make sure you stop coming back. Naruto said as he snapped her neck with his bare hands, making her explode in gold dust. Oh well, the Furies were dealt with. Naruto tensed when he heard thunder overhead and the hairs on the back of his neck stood up. We need to get off the bus right now. Annabeth shouted. Not needing any more warning, Naruto cut a large square-like opening in the bus, causing mass confusion and chaos for the mortals, who were still under the mist's effects. Clarrisee jumped out first, rolling into the grass, followed by Annabeth and lastly by Naruto. Not a moment later, a bolt of lightning shot out of the sky, straight onto the bus, destroying it and killing everyone on board much to Demigod's shock. Shit, that was close. Clarrisee muttered, looking at the flaming bus with wide eyes. Come on. Let's just be glad we got off in time. Annabeth said, motioning to the woods, knowing they had to get away and was also glad they didn't leave their stuff on the bus. Naruto, meanwhile, glared up at the sky. Stupid idiot. Borderline, brain dead, moron. Naruto went from grumbling to shouting at the sky. You beeping imbecile. We're trying to get your dumb weapon back so the bloody world doesn't end and you're trying to kill us. Do you want the damn bolt back or not? You dumbass. Olympus. Meanwhile, in the Olympian throne room, several gods were watching the quest, Zeus and Poseidon included. Poseidon was glaring hatefully at his brother, his hands shaking in rage and clutching around his trident, which was glowing dangerously green. Demeter also glared at her brother for trying to kill her grandchild. Ares was annoyed that his father tried to kill his favorite daughter. Not that it meant much to him, but Clarrisee was his favorite child amongst his current batch of brats. Athena was also not pleased that her father had almost killed her daughter. You know, kid's got a point. It's pretty stupid to kill the questers that are working to retrieve their symbol of power. Hephaestus muttered to himself. Hush now, Hephaestus, Hera said to her malformed son. Although she could find no fault in the statement by Poseidon's son, since Zeus wasn't winning himself any favors if he and Poseidon do go to war by hindering the quest. The fact that said hindering nearly killed the questers didn't help either. But the questers. Naruto, I know you're angry, but maybe we shouldn't shout at the god that can still throw more lightning bolts at us. Annabeth said, fearful that Zeus would take offense and throw another lightning bolt at them. It doesn't make me wrong. If he's too stupid to realize that killing the people trying to get his weapon back helps no one, then maybe he shouldn't be king of the Olympians, Naruto said as lightning crackled dangerously in the sky. Go ahead, throw another one at us. You'd only be proving me right. Naruto shouted, as after a few moments, the lightning stopped. And the sky cleared. Naruto smirked, knowing he had gotten the arrogant king to back down. Clarrisee looked at him, impressed that he got Zeus to back down, while Annabeth just let out a sigh of relief that they wouldn't have to deal with having lightning thrown at them again. He then pulled out the map he had taken from his house and opened it, drawing Annabeth's notice. I saw you take that map out of your house earlier. What's so special about it? This little map here is enchanted to show supernatural things within the US. Naruto said as he spoke in a low voice, zoom in on New York City. The map changed and showed the city's limits of the New York City. Where they should be were 3 omega symbols. Whoa, that's neat. Is that us right there? Clarrisee said as she looked over his shoulder, pointing at the omega symbols. Yes, that is us. And this is what we are after. Naruto said as he pointed to a blue and green circle about 2 miles south of them. That's one of my father's pearls. The magic kind that will help us escape the underworld. If we're gonna visit Hades, we need to be able to escape in case things go south. There's 2 more along our path. One being in Nashville and the other being in a casino in Las Vegas. I see an M right by the pearl. What does that mean? Annabeth asked, pointing to the symbol next to the pearl. Is that for monster? It is, there's one guarding the first pearl we need. Naruto said. One thing he wished the map did was tell them what monster it was, but it wasn't that detailed, only that there was one. Who's up for some monster slaying? Naruto asked the two. Clarrisee smirked with a bloodthirsty grin that matched Naruto's own while Annabeth was concerned. Later. After walking through the woods for a while, they soon came upon a 2-lane road. They saw a closed-down gas station, a billboard, and an open business with neon lights and the scent of food. It was one of those weird roadside curio shops that sell lawn flamingos, wooden Indians, cement grizzly bears, and stuff like that. The main building was a long, low warehouse, surrounded by acres of statuary. The bright red neon sign on the front gave the 2 war demigods a headache with their dyslexia, especially since it was written in cursive. Auntie M's garden gnome emporium. Naruto said, while seeing the entrance was flanked by 2 cement garden gnomes. You can read that? Annabeth asked. I overcame my dyslexia years ago, Naruto told her. Finally. I've been waiting to shed some bloodshed since those damn Furies showed up, Clarrisee said with a bloodthirsty smirk, eager to satisfy it as she couldn't participate in the killing of the Furies. We don't even know what's up ahead, Clarrisee, you shouldn't be so hasty. It could be a monster we aren't equipped for. Annabeth suggested, not wanting to go in without a plan against an unknown enemy, or possibly more unknown enemies if it was more than one monster. What's wrong, owl girl? Afraid you can't keep up? Clarrisee challenged her. No, I just think it's stupid to go in without a plan when we don't know what we're up against. Annabeth fired back and Naruto sighed as it looked like they were about to get into an argument. Suddenly, the doors creaked open and they saw someone standing there. An adult woman wearing a long black gown covering her entire body except her hands and head, a black veil covering the upper part of her face and hair, her hands and lower face showing her pale skin. Children, it is too late to be out by ourselves. Where are your parents? The woman asked with a soft and silky voice. We're lost and if you could point us in the right direction to the nearest bus or train station, that'd be appreciated. Annabeth said politely. Unlike the bloodthirsty daughter of Ares and hyper-confident son of the sea god, she really didn't want to be near this monster. She understood Naruto's argument and it made sense since they had a lot of time on their hands and it was dark out, but she had a feeling this was gonna end badly. Oh, my dears, you must come in, you poor children. I am Auntie M. Go straight through to the back of the warehouse, please. There is a dining area. Said Auntie M. No, that's fine, we don't want to intrude. Annabeth stopped when she saw Naruto and Clarrisee walk forward with purpose. Sighing, she followed them. The warehouse was filled with more statues of people in different poses, with all of them wearing different outfits and sporting different expressions on their faces. Interesting. Stone statues, an unusual amount of detail on them. Not too many monsters like that. Naruto thought, narrowing down the monsters it could be, his thoughts unknowingly mirroring Clarrisee and Annabeth as they reached the dining area. Please, sit down. Auntie M said. We don't have any money, ma'am. Annabeth said. No, children. No money. This is a special case, yes. It is my treat for such nice orphans. Said Auntie M with a kind smile. Thank you, ma'am. Annabeth said gratefully. Naruto noticed how Auntie M stiffened at Annabeth's words, while her smile became strained, as if she's forcing herself to be nice. That narrowed it down further. Quite alright, Annabeth. You have such beautiful gray eyes, child. Such beautiful eyes. Auntie M nearly hissed. How does she already know Annabeth's name? Naruto wondered as he narrowed his eyes. They hadn't introduced themselves yet. Naruto's eyes followed Auntie M behind the snack counter. While she was gone, Naruto gave a silent signal they had agreed on before coming to this location to get ready for a fight. Soon, Auntie M returned with several trays double cheeseburgers, vanilla shakes, and XXL servings of French fries. Thank you but I'm not hungry. Naruto said politely. The food was probably poisoned to slow them down, so he wasn't about to take the chance with it. Forgive me, I suppose you wouldn't like such food, Naruto. Said Auntie M in a kindlier tone than before, which just made the demigod more suspicious. He kept wondering what kind of monster she was. Naruto kept hearing a hissing sound but couldn't pinpoint the source. As he examined his surroundings, his eyes then fell on a statue of a young girl holding an Easter basket. The detail was incredible, much better than one might see in most garden statues. Hell, he could see the lines in her hands. But something was wrong with her face. It looked as if she were startled or even terrified. Suddenly, it clicked together for Naruto on who this woman was, the statues from earlier having similar expressions reinforcing his suspicions. Ah, you notice some of my creations do not turn out well. They are marred. They do not sell. The face is the hardest to get right. Always the face. Auntie M said, while muttering the last part. You make the statues yourself? Naruto asked, hoping to keep her distracted. Yes, I once had 2 sisters who I loved and protected, but they're gone now. Leaving me alone with just my statues. Alone, always alone, Auntie M said with real sadness and pain in her voice. 2 sisters? Annabeth said, her mind racing after hearing that. Clarrisee started to tense, her body anxious and ready for a fight. In response, Auntie M looked at Annabeth with a cold smile that also had a dangerous edge to it. It's a long and terrible story, not one suited for children I'm sure. You see Annabeth, I was once a priestess, one loyal and devoted to my patron goddess. But my patron, she had a rivalry with a petty and cruel god. My patron and the god both desired to be the patron of a city, with my patron being able to win a competition between them. But the god was a petty man, and in retaliation, he tried to seduce me, his rival's priestess, within her own temple. I rejected his advances, desiring to remain loyal to my patron, but I underestimated just how cruel the gods can be. So, he took me against my will right before my patron's statue, again and again and again. I begged and pleaded for him to stop, for my patron to help me, but no help ever came. When the god finally left, I pleaded to my patron for forgiveness and mercy. But do you know what she did instead? Auntie M shouted as she was practically shaking with rage at this point. Annabeth, now looking both incredibly pale and sick, shook her head slowly. Though the three immediately jumped up from the table when Auntie M stood up and then threw the table across the warehouse. Close your eyes, you two. It's Medusa. Naruto shouted as they all closed their eyes or looked away. She turned me into this. Auntie M roared, tearing her veil and cloak off, revealing the monster underneath. The ends of her hair gathered together and transformed into living snake heads, black and gold scales appeared on her arms and back, with her nails growing into talons, her entire body from waist down turned into a thick serpentine tail, and her only clothing consisted of an armored bikini. What's the matter, Naruto Uzumaki? Annabeth Chase, don't you wish to look at the result of your father raping me and your mother abandoning me? Go on, look at the monster they created. Medusa hissed, while her eyes glowed with her desire to turn them to stone. Yo, you're lying, that's not how the legend goes. Annabeth said, refusing to believe Medusa's story. Though she shivered when Medusa giggled darkly. What use do I have lying when I plan to kill you? Medusa asked cruelly, that is the truth. Your parents are nothing but a rapist and a traitor. They used me and then tossed me aside, turning me into this creature you see now. The only ones who didn't abandon me were my sisters. They stayed by my side, even as I slowly turned into a monster, into the Gorgon. Even when I killed hundreds of people, they stayed with me until the point where I saw them as intruders in my territory, but even then, they stayed. And in the end, when I only saw them as intruders, I devoured them. My own sisters. Poseidon and Athena took everything from me, my innocence, my humanity, my family. Everything. And now they'll get to see their own children turned to stone and shattered. Though while I'm sure they'll just make some replacements, I can at least hope that it'll hurt for a moment. Naruto opened his eye and glanced at Annabeth, seeing her not even trying to reach for her weapon. Medusa's words and story had destroyed her will to fight back. Water style. Water wall. Naruto called out, stomping his foot on the floor, summoning water from the pipes in the floor below, creating a thick wall of water to separate the demigods from the monster. Medusa hissed, angry that her eyesight was now blocked. Protect Annabeth, Clarrisee. Leave the snake to me. Naruto ordered. Clarrisee didn't like it, but she had to admit Medusa was a terrible opponent for her. She had no way of fighting without her eyesight. Can you fight her without your sight? Clarrisee asked as an arrow fired by Medusa bounced off the wall of water. Don't worry about me. Naruto said, I've got my ways. Medusa snarled at the wall and was about to try and go around it when she saw out of the corner of her eye Naruto leaping up and landing on the ceiling, seemingly sticking to it. Up here, you dumb slut. Naruto called out as he kept his eyes shut, knowing she was still sore about what happened to her. How dare you mock my suffering at your father's hands, see spawn. Medusa shouted as she fired several arrows at Naruto. Like you didn't enjoy the attention. Your little story from earlier conveniently left out the part where your beauty was causing people to begin to worship you, and you did nothing about it. If you actually thought Poseidon wouldn't come after you, then you're both dumb and a slut. Naruto said as he deflected the arrows with Enclosmos. I'll kill you. Die. Medusa shouted, frothing at the mouth with rage as she fired another arrow, only for Naruto to catch it. He threw it back at her with his super strength, using his sensing to know where she was. The arrow pierced her abdomen, the force with which it was thrown blowing a hole in her side, causing her to scream and roar in pain. Naruto appeared in a burst of speed near her, Enclosmos having been put away and the axe he took earlier in his hands. She swiped at him with her claws, but he ducked underneath her swipe and chopped her arm off. Roaring in pain, she tried to claw his throat out with her remaining arm, but he grabbed it with one hand, before grasping her by the back of the neck with the other hand, using his super strength to rip out her other arm at its socket with a roar. Poisonous blood flew from her arm socket as Medusa shrieked and screamed. Naruto chopped clean through her spine with his war axe, while making her fall to the ground face first. She wasn't allowed much time to whimper in agony as she felt Naruto press the blade of his axe against the base of her neck. She turned her head to look at him, still seeing his eyes closed. I pray you suffer in the underworld, see spawn. She bit back venomously. You're the only one here who deserves to suffer, you filthy animal. Naruto growled and raised his axe high and chopped downward, beheading the monster and killing Medusa instantly. Her body parts dissolved into gold dust, though her head remained behind. Naruto took her cloth that she had wrapped her snakes up in previously and covered up the head. Once done, he opened his eyes again. It's done. You can open your eyes. Naruto said. He noticed one of his father's pearls lying where he had cut off her arm earlier. She must have been wearing it on a bracelet or something. He picked it up and pocketed it away for later as he let the water from the pipes below wash over him, healing him from the Gorgon's poisoned blood that splashed on him earlier. Naruto cancelled his water while walking back to see Clarrisee more relaxed now, though Annabeth was still somewhat shaken. Naruto wrapped Annabeth in a hug, helping the girl calm down. It wasn't true, right? Annabeth asked slowly, while praying that she had lied just to hurt them. Honestly, Annabeth, it doesn't matter whether it was true or not. Naruto said, breaking the hug with Annabeth. How? How can it not matter? Annabeth said hysterically. A couple reasons. 1. Medusa was our enemy that already admitted to wanting to kill us and would say anything to get us to drop our guard so she could catch us with her fatal eyesight. She would say anything, do anything, to make it easier to murder us. Naruto said. And secondly, look at the statues. Naruto said, motioning to the statues, the girls following where he was pointing. He walked over to them to help illustrate more. This one was a young girl, probably 6 or 7. Probably an orphan, or she was a demigod and her human parent had been killed. Doesn't matter. She was a kid, no real threat to anyone. That didn't stop Medusa from ending her life. He said before moving on to another one. This was old woman. Probably ended up here by accident, looking for some nice statues for her garden. She might have had husband to return to or a family of grandchildren that she doted on. That didn't stop Medusa from turning her to stone. These two, clearly a young couple, were probably shopping for decorations from their new home. You can tell by the bulge on the woman's stomach that she was halfway through her pregnancy as well. That didn't stop Medusa from murdering them and their unborn child. My point is that, yes, Medusa might have been a victim at one point. But even if that is the case, then she is actually worse than both Poseidon and Athena because she stooped to their level. I understand hating them, but that does not give you the right to murder innocent people, children, old people and pregnant women. She stopped being a victim the minute she started murdering innocent people and became the same vile animal like all the other monsters. You don't get to play the victim card when you are an unrepentant animal that murders innocent people. She'll find no sympathy from me. He said coldly. Anyway, monologue aside, we got what we came for. It's dark out, so we'll rest here tonight and carry on when. Naruto said as he sent some clones to go set up a perimeter with sealing jutsu so they could sleep peacefully for the night. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.